Chairman Corker, Ranking Member Cardin, members of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, I appreciate very much the opportunity to appear before you today. It's a great privilege to address this committee, which has done so much to advance America's interests around the world.
Mr. Friedman also said that Palestinian refugees don't have a claim to the land, don't have a connection to Palestine, when in fact they do. Mr. Friedman, I'm right here. Mr. Friedman, my grandfather was exiled, was kicked out by the state of Israel, Mr. Friedman, and I'm right here, Mr. Friedman, holding up the Palestinian flag, right behind you. We aren't going away, Mr. Friedman. We were there, we are there now, and we will always be there. Palestinians will always be in Palestine.
It's a great privilege to address this committee, which has done so much to advance America's interests around the world, and which, together with the entire United States Congress, has for generations maintained unwavering support on a bipartisan basis for the State of Israel. I am grateful to the President of the United States for nominating me to the post of Ambassador to Israel, and I'm humbled by the trust and the confidence that he has placed in me to strengthen the unbreakable bond between our country and Israel and to advance the cause of peace within the region.
Come on, don't bullshit me.
In 1948, my father and my mother sat nervously at their radio, listening to the session of the United Nations that was then held in Queens, New York. And they rejoiced as the United States became the first nation to recognize the nascent state of Israel. My father cared deeply for Americans of all religious and political stripes. He marched in the civil rights movement. He convened prayer vigils to mourn the assassination of President Kennedy and Dr. Martin Luther King. And in the 70s, he handcuffed himself on numerous occasions to the Soviet mission to protest the Kremlin's refusal to allow Soviet Jews to emigrate. In October 1984, my father...
David Friedman is supporting the theft of Palestinian land. Mr. Friedman is currently building a 5-story apartment building in the settlement in the West Bank. David Friedman will far more likely provoke conflict in Israel and the occupied territory. Mr. Friedman supports expansionist policy and the annexation of the West Bank. Support Palestinian lives.
In October 1984, my father had the privilege to host President Ronald Reagan for lunch in our home on Long Island, with my mother doing the cooking, and to later introduce him as he addressed our synagogue. Those were dark days at the United Nations for the State of Israel. It operated under the cloud of a General Assembly resolution that equated Zionism with racism.
You can't handle the truth!
President Reagan, in his remarks to my father's congregation, was unambiguous. He said, and I quote, "If Israel is ever forced to walk out of the United Nations, America and Israel will walk out together." It was an unforgettable moment and a watershed in U.S. relations. Approached this with unbridled optimism and excitement. Some of the language that I used during the highly charged presidential campaign that ended last November has come in for criticism, and rightfully so. While I maintain profound differences of opinion with some of my critics, I regret the use of such language. I want to assure you that I understand the critical difference between the partisan rhetoric of a political contest and a diplomatic mission. Partisan rhetoric is not appropriate in achieving diplomatic progress, especially in a sensitive and strife-torn region like the Middle East. From my perspective, the inflammatory rhetoric that accompanied the presidential campaign
Oh, right! To call you stupid would be an insult to stupid people!
Is entirely over, and if I am confirmed, you should expect my comments to be respectful and measured. If confirmed, I will also faithfully observe
We are, if not now, American Jews against the occupation. David Friedman, you promote racism, fund illegal settlements. We will not be silenced. You do not represent us, and you will never represent us.
Israeli occupation is an injustice against Palestinians and a moral crisis for American Jews. Moral American Jews stand against occupation and against Friedman. Moral American Jews stand against Friedman.
Senators, if you send this man to Israel, you endanger millions of Palestinians and Israelis. American Jews stand against this man. We stand for freedom and dignity for all. Olam chesed yibaneh. We will build this
confirmed by the Senate, I also intend to faithfully observe the directions given me by the President and the Secretary of State without regard to my personal opinions. I'd like to thank this committee for permitting me to appear today. I look forward to answering all of your questions. And if I am confirmed, I look forward to working with each and every one of you to enhance our relationship with the State of Israel. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. State of play, the vote has not yet gone off, and we'll just continue with questions.
He is unqualified for this position. He is unqualified to be the U.S. ambassador to Israel. He finances illegal settlements in the occupied West Bank. Do not confront David Friedman. He is a war criminal. We believe in ending the illegal settlements in the West Bank. David Friedman funds them.
So we'll begin questioning with Senator Cardin, and if